This is the Drop EPOS PC38X. It's the same headset as the Drop Sennheiser PC38X, it's just that Sennheiser Gaming has rebranded to EPOS. Oh, and this model is black and the Sennheiser branded one is yellow. Now, unlike all of the other reviews that I've seen that are really more like ad spots, I actually paid for this with my own money, as you can see by the receipt. So let's see if this headset is worth the $180 I spent on it. Connectivity and controls on this device are simple as it only connects using a 3.5mm connection. And I tested this on PS4, the Nintendo Switch, and my Android phone. And since it's only using 3.5, that means that there's not going to be any bloated software to install. But if you still want some sort of simulated virtual surround sound, you can use Windows Sonic or PlayStation or Sony's Tempest 3D or whatever else kind of grime you can dig out of the dirt. Now, this is only one of the two cables it comes with. For desktop PCs, there's also this really long, maybe it's like 10 feet total in length wire. One end goes into the headset and the other end is a splitter, one for the headphone audio and one for the mic. It's all one wire though. It's not like you can detach the splitter Y end at the end. And this is the cable I used to do the mic test. Now, if you're a laptop user, just make sure that your 3.5 jack, it's a combo jack that takes both microphone inputs and headphone inputs. The only control on this headset is on the right ear cup. There is a volume wheel and there's this little groove that you can put your finger in and then you can change the volume like that. And what's nice is this is the actual gain of the headset itself, not like Windows system settings. The microphone on the left ear cup is non-detachable, but it is flipped to mute. Hear that click? It has a little bit of flex on it. It holds its shape okay. Ultimately, it doesn't come with a wind guard, which is going to be really important later in this review as I'll demonstrate. Now for headphone audio quality, but to set the stage, let me first read you this marketing blurb off of their website. All right, check this out. To put it simply, the PC38X helps you hear enemies and sense your surroundings more clearly. Thanks to the angled drivers and open back design, it offers better stereo imaging and locational accuracy, allowing you to identify movement, bullets, and incoming threats exactly where they're coming from. All right, look, that's the type of stuff that you see on our headphones from people that both drink and sell the Kool-Aid. Personally, I don't do either of those, so I'm just going to give it to you straight. Now, this headset sounds great, but it's not for the reasons that I just read off. And a lot of its performance is actually the opposite of what they say. Now, starting with the tuning, EPOS actually provides a card with a frequency response graph, and this was tested using one of those head and torso machines. Now, I've always been very skeptical about these graphs because they often tend to make even really tinny headsets appear bass heavy, but I just wanted to show you because I think it's really impressive that they even put something like this in the box. In my experience, the sound overall is quite balanced, but the steep dip around maybe the 4 to 7 kilohertz range, it's hard to tell exactly by this graph. But definitely in my experience, that range is pretty quiet, so it does line up with that. So that was a great change of pace for music for me because I'm a really big fan of bass. I don't like screaming highs and boosted upper mids, which can be painful for certain instruments and for female vocals. The tuning on these sounds like listening from someone go to the Blue Yeti, which is really harsh and bright, to the Shure SM7B, which is really warm and really smooth. The bass in this thing hits hard and it's textured, which is very impressive because as you can see, this is an open back design, all this venting for air to come out so sound can leak in and out. So bass can't really reverberate inside very much, but this still has extremely good bass for a gaming headset. It actually has better bass than any of the headsets that I own right now. So I really love this sound signature for music. But here's the catch. In Warzone, literally the first thing I noticed as I dropped in was, where'd all the footsteps go? The justification for most gaming headsets to kneecap the bass and crank up the upper mids and treble is specifically because it makes footsteps sound louder. And the PC38X, they're not very loud. So let's actually stick with that train of thought now because I'm going to get back into that marketing statement. As I said, this is an open back headset and you can see there's ample venting on the outside. This lets sound leak in and out freely. And this is what contributes to what self-proclaimed audiophiles refer to as a wider soundstage. Basically, because the sound literally is able to escape, it sounds like the sound is all around you because, well, it actually is because it's coming out of the headset. As opposed to something like this, which is the Astro A40TR with the mod kit with this closed back design that is here with the mod kit that you can put on and these sound isolating ear cups, it locks sound in. So everything sounds closer and this is a more narrow sound stage. But here's the thing, I played a lot of games going back and forth between these two headsets and really all the headsets that I have. And Soundstage is not actually a real factor for pinpointing audio sources in game. And that's not just my experience. If you think about it logically, attempting to convey the positioning of specific objects is completely inherent to the audio engineering of the sound source itself, be it game or music. It's not like there's some metadata that's going, okay, this is like 10 meters away or this is 20 meters away. The way you record or produce that audio file and ultimately what it sounds like, that's a property of the audio track or file or the game itself. And even if Soundstage was a factor, the fact that the upper mid-range and treble on this device is so much quieter than most other gaming headsets means footsteps, weapon reloads, parachute cuts, anything in that range is actually going to be harder to track, which it was in my experience, which is a complete contradiction to that marketing statement. Now, before you call me a hater, this actually is my favorite headset. It's just that this type of marketing triggers me so hard because it's the type of language that audiophiles, they really eat it up. And it's the type of language that they use to try to convince people to buy headsets and headphones that they really don't need and don't do what they say they do. Anyway, back to the performance of this detail and clarity. In this category, the PC38X drivers beat out every other gaming headset that I have right now, except for one, which is this, the Odyssey Penrose. But this thing is kind of ridiculous and it launched for $300. I'd say this Drop EPOS PC38X sounds a lot more like the Astro A40 if it had even stronger and better bass, clearer mids, and more separation in the highs. So just like a way better experience than the Astro A40, and the Astro A40 is pretty dominant in my opinion compared to the headsets that cost less than it. So again, for music, fantastic. Single player games, amazing. Movies, next level. In FPS games, explosions, they sound really deep and really strong, really powerful. The only issue that some people will have is the actual volume of each of the different frequencies. Now, this is something that you can actually compensate for in EQ software like Equalizer APO. The thing is, the amount that you have to boost the upper mids and how much you're gonna have to boost the treble, it's gonna be so much that you're gonna cause a lot of distortion. But even if we just ignore that chart, in my own experience, I did have to go up like 10 decibels maybe to really get close to what we were hitting on like the HyperX Cloud 2 with the upper mids. And it's so much that the sound starts to get kind of warped. And then you have to drop the bass a little bit down too, which is like, it's kind of like kneecapping this thing. At this point, if you're gonna try to warp it so much, you might as well just try to get a device that's more of that sound signature out the box anyway. So to summarize, this is my favorite sounding headset. The bass hits not as hard as Skull Candy, but it is quite strong. And there is good nuance to it. It's open back, so there's going to be zero sound isolation, but that could be good or bad depending on your preference. The soundstage is really wide, and if you like bass and you want something for general use, regular everyday use for like video editing or conference calls or single player game experiences, this is one of the best headsets to get. However, if you want something brighter sounding because you're not into that sound signature, or you just want something for FPS games specifically like Halo or Warzone, then I'd probably get the HyperX Cloud 2 or the Cloud Alpha instead. This one for FPS games mostly, and then the Alpha for more general everyday use. And these will also save you a ton of money.
Primary objective complete. Now, time to drink.
Microphone test with the PC38X from Drop EPOS. This is at its maximum volume in Windows settings. I am using the splitter that is included in the box. Now this is the Drop EPOS PC38X, but I stole a pop filter, just a little shield right here, to deal with the plosives. I got this from the Cloud 2. Let's hear if it makes any difference. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Keyboard typing and background noise rejection test with the PC38X. Let's hear what it sounds like and how much of the keyboard typing you can hear. The microphone of the PC38X is amazing, but also really not amazing at the same time. As far as clarity, it definitely beats out all the other headsets that I've used, beats out the Odyssey Penrose by a lot. People on the other side of the call or the voice chat are going to be able to hear everything that you're saying. The background noise rejection is decent, nothing extreme. I'm pretty sure it's passive because it's just using the splitter cable. It's not like there's like a USB sound card or anything. Unfortunately, the plosive rejection is really bad. So the P's and B's and T's, anything that blows air into the mic, even just breathing sounds, like for example, that is going to just like distort this mic really bad. And it's really unfortunate because the mic is so clear and so good otherwise. But this is a lot like the main mic I use, which is the Razer Siren V2X. And I have to use a pop filter on it. I have to get an external like windscreen for it that doesn't even come with this mic just so I can deal with the plosives. That's the same thing this is. And even with the Cloud 2 little pop filter on it, it didn't really help that much. You might need like one of those giant ones that they have at like sports broadcasts. So yeah, amazing mic, but also not amazing at the same time.
Now, comfort and build quality is a mixed bag. As far as comfort, I would give this a clean A, but build quality, this feels a lot more like a $20 or $30 headset. Then again, the Odyssey Penrose had that exact same issue, and that thing cost $300. So this headset is made completely of plastic, and like the Penrose, it's pretty thin plastic. It feels quite brittle, like it's gonna snap off. I think it feels a little bit more flexy than the Penrose. And just the overall build quality, like as you can probably see here, I might have to crank up the ISO. This flap underneath, this glue is like not very strong. It's already kind of like coming off, and it's like, come on, man. The ear cups do not swivel. Well, they have a little bit of like flexibility here, but they don't get like a full swivel. So fans of that are going to be disappointed. I do like the adjustment brackets up here, but they are quite standard. They can like account for a lot of different head sizes just because of how much of range they have on here. But again, when it comes to comfort, I am a huge fan of these. The actual fabric inside that they use, even if it's not that expensive, it's really soft. The ear cups are deep. You don't have to worry about touching the drivers. Very soft material inside, same material on the headband up here. The fabric inside holds its shape just perfectly. It's enough so that it feels snug over your ears, not touching the ears, but at the same time, it has enough give so that it's just like really comfortable and not a lot of extra force. Like for glasses users like myself, it doesn't cause extra force on those. Now, I wouldn't say it's quite as comfortable as the HyperX Cloud 2. This one is just amazing, top tier because of the fake leather that they have that is also super soft. But this is also up to personal preference. If you like fake leather, then you'll like this better. But if you're fine with this type of kind of soft material, this is amazing. Like I said, A in comfort. So for my verdict, I do recommend the Drop EPOS PC38X. It sounds excellent, it's very comfortable, and the 3.5mm connection ensures that it will be compatible with a bunch of different devices. However, I am aware that it is in a very awkward price point. It launched for more than double of what I've seen the Cloud 2 and Cloud Alpha for recently, and it's even a lot more than the Astro A40. And while I find that it does sound much better than all of those, it is also admittedly not tuned perfectly for FPS games. But if you just want to get a headset, hop on PS5 and then drop into Warzone, then probably get the Cloud 2 or the Cloud Alpha before you look at this. But bass heads like me, I absolutely love it and I highly recommend it. A link to this device and all the other devices that I've mentioned are below.